All right, yo, folks, we're live. We're live. It's been a minute since we've been live. I'm here in Mississauga for an event, Let Freedom Reign, with Lynn, Tyler Thompson, with Mark Friesen, and with the doctor here as well. But we are going to get a quick interview before the event starts. You can see the Grizzly Patriot himself right over there. And yeah, there's a huge lineup of people wanting to meet these freedom fighters, wanting to see this event. It's here in Mississauga. So yeah, it's a good time. A lot of people rolling in. I don't want to send the camera around and dox too many people. You know how it goes. But yeah, can I get your time, Mr. Friesen?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just come over here if you don't mind.
100%.
How are things? Say hi to YouTube. You're back on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of things on YouTube anymore because I can't. Because I'm sitting on 2 strikes, so.
Your Twitter got taken down.
It did.
At 44K or something.
44,000, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I assume I'll be back at some point.
Well, hopefully Elon gets your account back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the hope. We'll see.
Absolutely. So, Let Freedom Reign. How has the tour been going? And also, how did it all start? How did this whole this tour start?
Well, so it actually started in the during the height of the pandemic.
Right.
Myself and I recruited RB Ham to join me. We said, okay, you know what? We have to connect the dots for these people. These people have to understand what COVID is all about and why we're going through all of this social engineering experiment.
Right.
And so when we weren't allowed to gather and we weren't allowed to associate in any numbers above 10, we decided, yeah, I think we're going to do that anyway. And we did some underground town halls throughout Saskatchewan. And we were getting, 100 people showing up at a farmer's shop or a horse corral or a slaughterhouse in Alberta.
And now that's a venue. That's a nice venue.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was actually colder inside than it was outside. So we did that throughout the winter of 2021 into 2022. And then after, of course, the mandates and restrictions were lifted, Lynn was asked, and myself was asked, to do a tour throughout Saskatchewan for a political entity called True North Saskatchewan. So we agreed to that. We did town halls throughout the province, and we got absolutely phenomenal reception. 200, 300, 400 people at a venue. So it was very nice because I tell you, I've been at this for a lot of years, and for most of those years, I was screaming into an abyss where nobody was listening.
No one's listening.
Nobody wanted to listen.
That's a big problem here in Canada, it seems. No one's listening, no one's paying attention.
They're listening now.
Yeah.
We're noticing a big difference. And, of course, a lot of that's attributed to COVID. And so we got a great response through Saskatchewan. We did Alberta and BC as well, myself and RB. And then we thought, okay, let's do Northern Ontario. So myself, Lynn, and Sean Taylor toured Northern Ontario. A little less receptive. We anticipated that a little bit, but it was still definitely worthwhile. And then, of course, we wanted to do Alberta and BC. I had to back out of that one because I ended up in a provincial by-election in Saskatoon. So Sean Taylor and Lynn and Salim Mansour did the Alberta BC leg of the tour. And then Lynn asked me if I wanted to do this little mini Southern Ontario tour, along with a couple of dates in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI. So I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm in. So here we are.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know that before you started Forum for Canadian Sovereignty, which was educating Canadian citizens about the UN. Is it a similar sort of seminar, similar sort of education package for the people coming out, or how does it relate?
It really is. That's what it's based on. And I mean, I created the Forum for Canadian Sovereignty based on what Thierry Baudet has done in the Netherlands. And he created what's called Forum for Democracy, and he toured throughout his country, informing people of the globalist agenda and how it's going to affect them and the consequences of the agenda. And he ended up, it got so popular, he created a political party under the same name and got himself elected with a number of other members. And now they're having this discussion, the globalist discussion, this discussion over the agenda in Parliament, where it needs to be. And so that's sort of, obviously the modus operandi that I have for the Forum for Canadian Sovereignty, is to inform enough people that at some point, either the PPC gets elected into the Parliament so we can start having these discussions in Parliament, or the people put enough pressure on the establishment parties to speak about it. So, ultimately that's the goal.
Awesome. And I know you have to go on stage here soon, so let's talk about some exciting topics. Like, are you following the EMA hearing, the Emergencies Act hearing? Do you have time for that sideshow?
To be honest, I haven't had a lot of time to follow as much as I would like. I have obviously caught some parts to it. Chris Barber, I saw a bit of his testimony, and it was good. I missed Pat King's, which I would have liked to have listened to.
There's a couple of funny parts in that one.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, so I haven't been able to watch as much as I would like, or really to comment much about it, because I just haven't had time to watch.
Now, since the convoy, something that I found very, I almost want to say disappointing, is there's all this momentum, there's all this energy behind blue-collar workers, behind regular working-class Canadians, and behind the simple idea of freedom. And then who came in to swoop up and collect all that support? An establishment politician named Pierre Poilievre.
Right.
And there's been this craze over big PP or small PP, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
Have you seen this, and what's been your kind of feelings on this or thoughts on this?
Well, it's typical. This is nothing new from my experience. The first convoy that went to Ottawa in 2019 was hijacked by the Conservative Party then too.
The first convoy, United We Roll.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
which was really the seeds for the trucker convoy.
100%. It's absolutely what planted the seeds for that. And it was hijacked by the Conservative Party. They ended up...
Not right away. Once it was popular, right?
Right. Once it became popular, they jumped on it, and then all of a sudden they had a parade of Conservative MPs coming from the Parliament down to make speeches that they were never going to be part of. And all of a sudden they just sort of hijacked it. So this whole idea that Pierre Poilievre has hijacked convoy is nothing new. Of course he did. Right. When it became cool, right? When it became okay to do it. Yeah. When his focus groups told him, yeah, you know what? It's polling pretty good now, go ahead. Right? That's essentially what happens.
Same thing.
It's not about right or wrong.
Yeah. I guess, what I find so concerning about this phenomenon, although it's nothing new, there was all this energy with the convoy, and now it's like, yes, this establishment politician is our guy. He's going to save us. And I wanted to ask you about this kind of anti-Trudeauism. It's almost like it's not conservatism anymore. What Pierre Poilievre is selling is anti-Trudeauism. And it's super sad because it's not, I don't know, he's almost like astroturfing what conservatism is and saying, well, we just got to get Trudeau out. I think it's really dangerous where that's headed.
Well, and so I ran in the same thing in the original convoy that went to Ottawa. I wanted to impress upon those people that it's about a much bigger picture. There's much bigger things at play here. Yeah. If we micro-protest individual issues, we're going to do it until we die. Mm-hmm. And then our kids will be micro-protesting. Right. And that's where they like it. I want to attack the head of the snake. I want to focus on the root cause of all this evil. And of course the Conservatives can't because they're responsible for it.
Right.
So they don't acknowledge it. Yep. They deny it. They feign ignorance to it. Yep. Because they're responsible for it.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to have the discussion to talk about the root cause, which of course is the UN Sustainable Development Agenda 2030.
Yeah.
That's the pinnacle. That's what everything comes from.
Yeah.
So.
And it gets uncomfortable and difficult because it's like Pierre Poilievre, yeah, sure, he's had a lot of great talking points in the past where he's owned Trudeau in the House of Commons. And it's difficult to like explain or show to people that like, this guy is actually lying to you. This guy is he's pandering to you shamelessly. And what I always bring up is, just the other day, he was talking about the ArriveCan app in the House of Commons, Pierre Poilievre. And was he talking about how it was this disgusting invasion of our privacy? Was he talking about how this should never happen again to Canadian citizens? No, he was like, it's too expensive. Where are the auditors? He's focusing the moral outrage of conservatives on money.
Well, because in order for the establishment to be successful, they need to keep things on the surface.
Yes.
They need to keep things as simple as possible so their constituents absorb what they're saying very easily. Right? There's no leading from the front. Mm-hmm. These establishment politicians, conservative, liberals, NDP, Bloc, Green, all of them, they lead from the rear. They wait for the media to establish the narrative, to make it okay, and they swoop in from behind and then parrot all the talking points that are acceptable to the general population. Instead of leading from the front, educating the masses as to what's really going on, what's right and what's wrong, they'll never do that because that's too costly, because that's politically incorrect. So,
you had the election recently. How did that go? You're in the trenches, running for.
You're referring to the by-election that I was in?
Yeah.
Well, it was a urban riding, close to the center of Saskatoon. It didn't go well.
How many smashed windows, vandalized?
None, actually, but all my signs were destroyed the first night I put them up.
Wow.
So that was fun.
That's illegal, by the way.
It is illegal. I actually caught them doing it and then followed them home. And then, of course, the cops couldn't do anything about it because I didn't actually see these people doing it. So.
Oh, you didn't get evidence of it?
Yeah, right.
Hey.
So.
Hey, look who it
Hello.
is.
Hello. Guy here, huh?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're live on the YouTube. And how's the tour been so far?
It's been fantastic. Mark is sort of taking over. People seem to really know him. We were in an airport, okay, and these people, three women come up to him. It's a mother, two kids, and they're like, oh, "Are you Mark Friesen?" And then they started to cry.
Laura Lynn's nose was bent out of shape a little bit.
I was standing there, and I'm like,
they didn't recognize Laura Lynn.
I'm like, for sure they'll be like, and you're Laura Lynn, and nothing. They just looked through me, and it was very hard. It was a tough moment, but I let them know I gave them pamphlets on me, and so it's all fine. We've been having fun. We have Dr. Kevin Stillwagon. He really lays it out. And Mark is telling the world about the Club of Rome and Klaus Schwab and how it all came to be, and basically scaring the hell out of us so that we can make room for heaven to get in. Yeah. We want people to understand the truth so that they are aware, because without knowledge, the people perish. So it's an urgent time.
And I want to ask, what has been the response, and also what type of people are coming out to these events? Because I've always found, and I'm sure you have as well, there's a lot of apolitical types in Canada, but that's kind of changing slowly but surely. Like, what type of people are coming out? Are they coming from like knowing nothing about politics to like coming here, or what are you finding with the people coming out?
I think the majority of our audience are fairly informed. There are some, of course, that aren't and are a little bit shocked to hear what we talk about, and that's okay. I think everyone leaves with a much broader sense of what's really happening and what's at play.
Like
Because none of it's discussed in the mainstream.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like one lady came today and she said that she was in a lineup to get, that special little jab. And the lineup was long, and so she got dissuaded, and she then began to watch programs like Mark and I put out, and understood, and so she's really grateful. Another guy, he's not a Christian and his wife's a Christian, and she's always trying to get him to go to church. Well, he wouldn't go to church. He doesn't want nothing to do with organized religion, but when he heard that Mark and I were coming, then he forced her to come to our rally. And so that's very cool. So we're actually reaching a wide group of people, and it's pretty cool. We had a big lineup here, you know, a lot of, I would say it skews to the women. Yeah, but a lot of men here too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. People who want to know that we're together and we have unity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And obviously the trucker convoy was explosive, and a lot of that energy is still here. But, you know, a lot of people have been back into the matrix, back into, well, Pierre Poilievre is going to save us. But, you know, we criticize Pierre Poilievre, these establishment politicians, and then people always say to me, well, what are we going to do, Greg? Like, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do? And I've always been like, that's a good question. You know, what are we going to do? And you know, for anyone watching at home, do you, or anyone who comes to these events, like what kind of guidance or advice do you give to people?
So, you know, for me, it's going to happen naturally. It's going to happen organically. Once we reach critical mass in knowledge, and we're fighting an uphill battle. We're swimming upstream against the mainstream media, right? So once we reach that critical mass of knowledge, that enough people across this country understand what the root is of all of this evil, then we're going to have something, and we'll have something tangible that we can work with that can affect change. When that's going to happen, I'm not sure, but we have to go through some more pain before we get there. There's no question.
I always tell people, just watch Maxime Bernier's Twitter page and you'll see that he is one of the few politicians that's on the front line and the smartest one. He does. He's always ahead. He knows all the issues. He speaks to the issues. He's so courageous. And I'm sad because I was always a conservative until the conservatives rejected me because I didn't want, you know, young kids to be taught about gender fluidity, and I don't support, you know, this thing that's happening with our world today. And, you know, and now that when I began standing up for that, they agreed with me, I believe, in principle, but they didn't want to stand. They didn't want to stand against the politically incorrect world. And so, or the politically correct world. And so now I just believe, like, I really like Maxime, and I think his star is rising. We have to give it a bit of time. With Pierre Poilievre, I mean, for me, he's, you know, he's still pro-abortion. For me, he's still pro-gender, you know, gender nonsense, and he's pro the Ukrainian war, and I would like to get away from war. I don't mind war when we need a war, but I'm not certain how Canada, with all of our emotional and financial problems, should be involved in a war with Russia and be promoting that war should happen. That could mean, you know, our sons and our daughters might be fighting a war when we've got a real war going on right now.
Yeah, and the ongoing war is just causing so much disarray, and it looks like it's going to be a very hectic winter, especially for people in Europe because of gas shortages and things like this.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back to social conservatism because you're a social conservative, and before you guys go, you are people of faith. I feel like that is a big piece of the puzzle in terms of turning this country around. Any thoughts on that before you get on stage there?
Well, I don't think that we can trust the politicians to fix it. We can't trust our medical establishment. They are completely corrupt. We can't trust the justice system, even after some things I heard today about what's going on. Who do we trust? Well, I believe that the God who is all-powerful is the one who can get us out of this. And I always say every night, it's just going to take one flick of God's baby finger and Justin Trudeau is done. But if God's not done with using Justin to bring Canada to a place of perhaps repentance, then he won't be gone. But when it's God's time, it shall be done. And until then, God's bringing us to a place of humility and also understanding our need for him. And I think that's pretty spectacular.
And on that note, people have mentioned how the convoy was really brought people together. It's almost like Trudeau's tyrannical behavior has created so much unity in this country like never before seen.
The antidote to this globalist agenda is self-reliance, self-determination, independence, and community. That's the antidote to hyper-centralization of power, control, and resources. That's the antidote. And we have to incorporate God into that and faith into that, because that's who's going to give us the power spiritually to do what is necessary and needs to be done. So
Amazing. You guys are going on soon, is that right? All right. Well, hey, thanks for your time, man.
thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bring it in.
Do you want to come on? We're live right now.
You live?
Yeah. Do you want to come on?
All right, sure. Yeah, let's do one. Yeah.
We're here with the one and only J.D. Meaney, PPC candidate.
How's it going, everyone?
Oh, look at that.
That's right, yeah. Got to represent the brand, of course, always. And Remembrance Day, guys. Don't forget that. Very important.
What's to do with you, man? It's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, I've been good. If anyone out there has been following me, I just actually concluded the municipal election. I ran for regional council in Ward 1 in Oakville against Sean O'Mara. Sean actually tried out for the Liberal nomination for the provincial Liberals in Oakville. He was unsuccessful, so he decided to seek another term as backup for regional council. I myself, as the two-time PPC champion for Oakville, decided that I should actually put myself in a position where I can have a say against the mandates. I was encouraged by a lot of neighbors to actually step forward and do that. I finished with 26%, so that's very good actually compared to what I...
26% of the vote.
That's correct, yeah, 26%,
right.
so yeah, that's right, yeah. There we go. So more than halfway there, all right, so...
Yeah, man. Good for you. And like when we started, because we both ran in 2019 as PPC candidates, I remember running thinking like, am I going to win? It's important to actually have the voice there, to have someone there representing those values. And like that's why the PPC kind of exploded in 2021, because it's like, wow, a party that's against mandates. So good on you to
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So you're definitely right, Greg. For sure, we were the only ones that were speaking out against mandates, and we're the only ones that still speak out against mandates, and we're not shy about that, and we are very upfront, and we have a common sense approach about that, and I applied that same type of policies to a municipal level too.
Yeah. And speaking of which, how did you find the difference? You've ran on federal and now municipal. Was the election much different? How did it differ?
So it was definitely a much smaller engagement. We only had a 28% turnout for all of Oakville, which is actually, it's quite low. It's quite sad. There's 144,000 registered voters that are in Oakville, and we had about 41,000 people show up to vote. So we could have had a lot more there for sure, compared to federal, where there's typically more people are showing up to vote for that, and we have the parties, so you have your stripes and everything that people are familiar with. And one of the hardest things actually was conveying a message municipally. Especially when you're going door to door, a lot of people don't have a lot of time. They got their dog, they're on Zoom at work or that kind of stuff, and they got 5 seconds. And what's the way to do it? So okay, so I'm here. I support family values. I have conservative values. I have common sense. I believe in freedom. Short buzzwords like that to get the message across. And usually you'll know right away if people they want to talk or if they don't want to talk. And I think that was a very good strategy in a lot of senses there.
Awesome. And when it comes to the mandates and the convoy, did that come up during the municipal election? Was that a topic that came up a lot?
It was. My opponent actually said that JD's pro-trucker, and I thought, that's kind of weird. I'm like, what a weird comment to say about me. I mean, I don't even know what that means. Are you anti-truck? Like, what does that mean? Like, how do you want to get your supplies then? It's got to show up somehow. It didn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So, but that came up a few times, and yeah, I was in Ottawa. I'm not ashamed of that, and I still think that was very needed at the time. It was very important, and it's just very interesting seeing how the commission's going down right now. And there's obviously a lot of I'm going to call it irregularities, especially for people that were there. They know the truth. I know the truth. And I would like to see more honest transparency come back to Canadian politics, and I think that's lacking right now.
Yeah. So I got to ask about small PP. I got to ask about Pierre Poilievre's, because for the convoy, for me, it was like they raised more money than a federal political party. The truckers did, and there was all this energy, these blue collar workers, but Pierre swooped in to be like, hey, yeah, I'm with you guys. And it worked so effectively. And I after the convoy, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, all these people are now following this establishment politician. What was your reaction to that? And more importantly, how do we snap they've it? Because they've fallen back into this like conservative party, the what do you call it again? The two-party system? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing right now with that, you're completely correct, actually, with that analysis. I think a lot of people are falling to what's familiar with them, and Canadians have this habit of voting people out of office rather than voting people into office. So I think that we kind of have to almost educate and re-educate the public in a lot of ways, where you should vote based on what your values are and what you think are important, rather than focusing on getting rid of Justin Trudeau. And he is important to get rid of. We have to get rid of him for sure. I totally agree with that. But I think that, once again, reflecting and analyzing and thinking, okay, well, what was Max saying at the time in 2021 when Pierre was saying it as well too? And maybe comparing and contrasting, the differences in policies at the time. So I think that Pierre was towing the party line. Sure, he edged off a little bit, and that's what a lot of PPC supporters like too, because a lot of us have common sense values. So the thing is, Maxime has been consistent the entire time. I've been consistent the entire time. I know a lot of candidates also that are part of the PPC who have also been consistent the entire time too. And I think that's something the public should probably start to analyze a little harder.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of Canadians out there who are afraid of being socially conservative, even though, if you think there's a difference between a man and a woman, technically you are conservative now. That's just how far the Overton window has shifted, so to speak. Are you afraid to be socially conservative? How can we kind of make this more cool and popular in Canada, and really kind of give people the confidence to be like, yeah, I disagree with this crazy, gender ideology being taught at schools, for example.
Yeah, I think, let's do a quick test. All right, there's two genders, okay? That's my opinion. I know, really shocking. I know, I'm sorry. But actually, let's talk about a very interesting example. Oakville Trafalgar High School. It's a high school I actually went to. And
oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And there was a teacher very recently, you might have seen in the media, who was,
How could you miss it?
How could you miss it? Literally, man, it was right in your face. So, but and I went to a few protests, and I spoke with some students and some parents and everything, and I think that it's very important to not allow the language to get confused, because that's starting to happen now. I know there's another big thing that's happening in Toronto about furries or something along those lines, and people are getting barked at or something, and yeah. So let's bring it back a little bit here. So I knew some trans people that actually reached out to me during the election, and they actually thanked me for speaking out against this, because they said this has nothing to do with being trans. Greg, I know you know this too. You're on Twitter, and when you start to put yourself out there in the public eye a little bit, you have all kinds of interesting people that come to you and send you messages and tell you stories. And one of them was a former sex worker who told me that she actually knows of people that like to do these sorts of things. And she said that what this man is doing is he's actually practicing a fetish. Now, the thing is, I can't go out and actually prove this, but I'm going to take the word for it of this former sex worker who actually told me this. And I believe that. And I think a lot of other people are questioning, what's going on too as well at Oakville Trafalgar. And I think that the school board is going to have to, maybe answer for that at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah. And on that note, it's kind of just scratching the surface of, like, there's so many interesting things when it comes to sex and sexuality that, like, just is not brought up anymore. It's just like, no, they have the right to exist, and don't question anything. Don't question these massive jugs in your face. It's like, we need to talk about this. But anything else you wanted to add or plug while I got you here?
You know what, guys? The most important thing is you seriously got to go out and vote. And if you can support candidates you believe in, it's really important to do so. I know it sounds really cheesy when I say it, but take the lawn signs, give an hour of your time to help those candidates out. Donate if you can, $100 once every 4 years. I'm sure everyone can afford to do that. And then honestly, at the end of the day, go out and vote. And we really need to believe in the system if we're going to save the system. That's the big thing, because saying we're going to throw it all away, it's not going to help at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, we need the other voices that exist in order to protect those freedoms. That's what the PPC is here for. That's what I'm here for. That's what guys like Greg are here for, to show the other side and, have a little satire fun with it too. But it's important. We got to do it.
Absolutely. Hey, well, guys, thanks a lot for watching. We're going to get in here and watch the presentation with Mark Friesen and Laura Lynn. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
How you been, man?